Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are going to learn the poem Keeping Quiet by Pablo Neruda. So this is a poem in grade 12 English and it is in the Flamingo textbook. If you see at the beginning of the chapter, there is a brief description about the poet, that is Pablo Neruda. And this poem is a very beautiful and meaningful poem which revolves around the themes of self-introspection and the importance of silence. So let's start the chapter now. So I will read the lines and we will discuss all the lines in detail. So let's start. Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. So here in these two lines, the poet is trying to advocate peace and silence, and he wants us to be quiet for some time and he wants us to be still. And he says that we will count to 12 and by that time we are going to stop talking, stop communicating, and we should be still and listen to what he's trying to say. Now, the reason why he has chosen 12 is something which is ambiguous and up to the reader to decide. So, there are many interpretations, maybe because there are 12 months in a year, or maybe because in a clock, there are 12 numbers from 1 to 12. That could be another reason. So, that is something which is ambiguous and it is the reader's decision to interpret the meaning. So I already gave two possible interpretations. There could be more, and that is the reader's decision, and that is the reader's choice to interpret. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. So here if you see the poet is asking us to stop talking, whichever language we speak, let us not talk to anyone, let's stop communicating. And he wants us to not move our arms so much. He wants us to be still and listen to the poet. And if you see he has written the words for once. So that means he's trying to say that the world is rarely silent. We are always focused on doing some kind of task and we are always in a hurry. We are trying to complete all our duties and we don't have enough time to focus on our actions, to reflect on them and see whether it is a good deed or a bad deed. We don't have enough time, so he wants us to be quiet for once because we are always moving fast and not thinking about the consequences and implications of our actions. So he wants us to stop talking and be silent so that we can reflect on the actions that we have done and see whether they are good deeds or bad deeds. And here he has used the word arms. So there could be a symbolic interpretation of this term as well. So you know that arms also refers to the ammunition and weapons that we use in wars. So indirectly, in a symbolic manner, he is trying to say that we should stop going to wars and stop fighting with one another. So that is the symbolic meaning. It would be an exotic moment. Without rush, without engines, we would all be together in a sudden strangeness. So, this moment where the entire world is silent and not talking to anyone is something which is exotic to him. That means it is something which is special because, as I told you, this world is a fast moving world. We don't have enough time to think about anything and we're always in a hurry. So, a moment where we are all quiet and we are all focused on reflecting on our actions is something which is exotic and special to the poet. Without rush, without engines. So, as I told you, the world is always in a hurry. We are always trying to rush and we don't have enough time to think rationally and make decisions which are going to be beneficial to ourselves and to others. So if we are silent and if we are quiet, then the poet opines that the world would be a peaceful world, because if we are quiet, then we will be able to think whether the actions that we are going to do will benefit others, and will it be something which is going to benefit us at the end of the day as well. So that is why the poet wants us to be silent. And of course, he feels that this is something which is strange, because currently the world is quite fast, and we are not having enough time to ponder over our actions. So if we are actually silent for once, and if we're able to reflect on our actions, then that is something which is strange to the poet. And of course, he values that moment. He considers it to be exotic, but of course, that is quite rare. And in the current scenario, we are always focused on doing some kind of task. We are not at all still. We are moving here and there, and we are just in a hurry to finish everything off. And in this stanza, there is palilogia. Palilogia is basically a type of repetition. If you see the word without, without is there two times in this stanza, and it is in the same line. So repetition in the same line is palilogia. You could also just say it is repetition. And also there is alliteration in this line. If you see, sudden strangeness is an example of alliteration, because both sudden and strangeness start with the same sound, that is S. And as a result, because of the same sound, it is an example of alliteration. Let's go to the next stanza. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. So here he is saying that the fishermen, that fishermen always try to capture the fish and all the aquatic animals which are present in the sea or any kind of water bodies. So if you see, he has given the example of whales in this stanza. So he is saying that if the fishermen had some time to ponder over their actions and reflect whether that is going to be beneficial, then they would realize that capturing the aquatic animals like whales would deprive them of their natural habitat. You know that all the aquatic animals live in a marine ecosystem. So if we are taking them out of the water bodies, then they are going to, their survival is at stake. So that is going to harm those creatures. So if we had some time to be silent and quiet, then they would realize that the action that they are doing is having a negative impact on the aquatic creatures, and they would not harm them. And then he adds on that the people who are gathering salt, they would look at their hurt hands. So you know that many people who are gathering salt would have some kind of injuries or wounds. And in this world, everything is so fast. We are all in a rush to do things. So we don't have enough time to look at our wounds and cater to them. So if those people had some time of quietness and silence, then they would look at their hurt hands, they would look at their wounded hands, and they would take a pause from that tiring job which they are doing. So he is basically explaining the need for the moment of silence in this stanza. Let's move on. Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade, doing nothing. So here, if you see, the poet says green wars. So by this term, he is trying to say he's referring to the environmental damage that we are doing. We know that many people are chopping down trees, like deforestation and so on. So all these kinds of actions which are putting the nature at stake, which are affecting the nature, will definitely affect us as well. It is something which is going to uh, harm our lives in the future. So he wants us to stop doing these kind of actions, these actions which are damaging and polluting the environment. And then he says, wars with gas, wars with fire. So, in addition to environmental damage, he also talks about the regular wars which involve nuclear bombs and all these kinds of weapons which, lead to fire. There are many weapons which lead to fire. So all these kinds of ammunition and weapons that we are using in wars, all these are going to affect us as well. And he says victory with no survivors. So he's explaining how is it going to affect us when we are having any kind of war, maybe between two nations or between two sets of people. There is no one around to celebrate the victory, because at the end of the day, there are people who are going to, be annihilated, who are going to get killed in the war. So as a result, we are not only, putting damage to others, we are also causing trouble. We are inviting trouble to ourselves. So basically, having any kind of war is, futile, because the victory that is going to be achieved at the end of the war is futile, because there is no one around to celebrate the war, because everyone has been killed, or there is some kind of injury or wound that every person who is involved in the war is going to face. Even when we talk about the green wars, if we're chopping down the trees and all these kinds of environmental elements of nature, then definitely that will affect our life as well, because we know that trees are very important, and uh, any kind of plants always will benefit us. So definitely, if we are trying to cause damage to the environment, then that will definitely come back to us. That will cause an impact on our lives, maybe not now, but definitely in the future it will be something which is detrimental to our life. Then let's continue. Would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. So, after this, they would stop all their activities. They would just walk about with their brothers. They would do nothing, because at the end of the war, everyone has, maybe gotten injured, or maybe everyone has been killed in the war. And at the end of the day, there is no one to celebrate the victory. And we are all going to just walk, do nothing. Maybe we might lament over the death of the uh, people who were involved in the war, but there is no point, because they are not going to return. They are those who are dead fighting the war will never come back to life. So basically, the war is just causing trouble to us. It is an added predicament which we are inviting ourselves, and the poet doesn't want us to do this, because at the end of the day, there is no positive outcome. Having a war is not at all beneficial. So why do we need to invite trouble is the question what he is posing to us. Let's continue. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. If we were not so single minded about keeping our lives moving, and for once could do nothing, Perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. So, uh, from the beginning itself, the poet wants us to be silent, quiet, and think about our actions. And he doesn't want us to misinterpret what he's trying to convey. So he doesn't want us to just do nothing and be lazy. Rather, what he's trying to say is we should be quiet and reflect on the actions that we are doing or all the decisions that we are making. He wants us to think logically, think rationally, whether it is a good choice or not, and then he wants us to take the next step, not just blindly take choices and do actions which are going to harm others as well as ourselves. So he doesn't want us to just stay still and be lethargic. He wants us to, uh, you know, have some time to think about what we are doing. And life is what it is about. So it is already decided. We cannot do anything to change the life or what is this going to, or all the future, events that are going to happen. We are not going to change that. We don't have the power to change the future. I want no truck with death. That means he doesn't want to be connected to death at all. And if we were not so single minded about keeping our lives moving and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt the sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. So if we are broad minded and if we are not narrow minded, then we could actually realize the implications and the consequences of our actions. And he's saying that people are so single minded, they are narrow minded, they are not at all introspecting and realizing their the harmful effect of their actions. So he wants us to be silent because then we can understand, the actions. We can understand the whether our actions are actually beneficial to others, whether they are good deeds or not, and then the life of all the people who are living in the world would be more meaningful. Because if we are not doing any kind of bad deeds, then both us as well as the others who are living in this world would have a meaningful life. That is what the poet is trying to say. Then let's go to the last few lines. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. So we are always thinking about death. We are always thinking about, we are always lamenting over people who are passing away, and he wants us to actually think about death as a phase of life. And he wants us to understand that even if we die, we will be reappearing, maybe not physically, but in the minds of others, we will still be lingering. So instead, we are always thinking that if someone dies, their life is over, and we always cry and wail. But all these kinds of actions will not bring back the person who has gone to his heavenly abode. So these actions of crying and wailing are useless, they are futile, and he wants us to remember that if a person passes away, they are still alive in our minds, they are still alive in our hearts, and we will always remember them because we are going to cherish the moments that we spent with those people. We are going to think about them, think about their actions. So they are still alive in our minds, even though they are not physically in front of us, they are still there, they are still present. And he says that the earth can teach us this. So he says the earth can, give the example of something which appears to be dead but later proves to be alive. So, an example of this could be the trees in the winter months. So, as you know, in fall, the trees will shed all their leaves, and in winter, the trees are empty. There are no leaves on it. There are no birds who are going to perch on the branches of the tree. And it just seems so lifeless and it appears to be dead. But when in spring, the flowers start to bloom, and on the trees, the same tree which appeared to be lifeless will now be filled with green leaves and there will be many kinds of birds which will be on the branches. They will be sitting on the branches, and the same tree which was appearing motionless and lifeless a few months ago will now appear lively, and it will be vibrant, filled with joy and happiness. Now I'll count up to 12, and you keep quiet and I will go. So now he is saying he has done his part of explaining the reason and explaining why we should be quiet and silent. And now he says that if you are quiet, then he will go. So he wants us to be quiet. He is advocating the importance of silence here, and if this world is quiet, he knows that the world will be more peaceful, it will be filled with ebullience, and after that, after he sees that, he says that he will go because his job is done. He has conveyed what he wants to tell, and we have followed it, and the desired outcome has also been experienced by the poet. He has seen the happy world, which is full of good deeds, full of good actions, and after seeing that, his job is done, so he says he will go. So that is the end of this poem. It is a beautiful poem, and it is loaded with imagery. If you see in these lines, he describes the wars with gas, wars with fire, and even here he says fishermen would not harm whales. So these are something which the readers can develop an image about in their minds. So definitely this poem has a lot of imagery. And there is alliteration, as I had told you, there is sudden strangeness. And also here, if you see wars with gas, wars with fire, there is alliteration, and also there is repetition here as well. And this entire poem is a symbolic poem. As I had shown you here in this line, he is symbolically asking us to stop fighting and stop going to war. And he wants us to be quiet, still, and reflect on our actions and see whether we should do those actions or not. So that is all about this poem, and I hope you have understood this poem clearly. If there are any doubts, please feel free to comment and I will surely respond to your queries. So thank you everyone and stay tuned for the future videos. All the very best. Thank you and have a great day.